Hi everyone, this is Upasna, your friendly neighborhood scientist, and today we will be talking about how drugs function inside the body. Before you watch this video, you need to have watched the earlier videos which I have linked in the description box. And I would like to sincerely apologize for the delay in releasing this video, and I hope to be more regular next time onwards. Now, without much further ado, let's get started.
Processes within the body run in what can be thought of as an intricate machine with many gears, locks, and keys. A specific key opens a specific lock, which in turn turns another gear, and the process runs on. This is true across living organisms, whether bacteria, fungi, plants, animals, and humans as well. Other organisms also have the lock and key mechanisms running to keep them alive, but their locks and keys are not the same as ours. When bacteria or fungi invade our bodies, if we make a fake key to enter into one of the locks in their systems, we can jam the system while not affecting our own machinery. This is called the broken key mechanism. It's like a key that enters into the lock and then breaks, which prevents the original key from entering the lock and the lock from functioning properly. This is how antibacterial and antifungal medications work. This mechanism is also useful for targeting other types of diseases which are malfunctions of our own systems. In this case, we try to block a particular pathway in our own systems which is required for causing the disease. Painkillers are a good example from everyday life of this very process. Prostaglandin is a chemical that is produced whenever there is pain or inflammation. Painkillers generally target the mechanism which generates prostaglandin. Ibuprofen, diclofenac, Volini all work in the same way. But for antiviral drugs, it's a different story. While bacteria, fungi, and other parasites are complete organisms with their own mechanisms of life, viruses are just genetic material encased in protein and lipid that invade our systems and hijack our own mechanisms. This reduces the number of available locks and keys or gears. Also, viruses evolve very rapidly, causing a new drug to be ineffective in a matter of months. While there are success stories with HIV and hepatitis C, drugs for acute viral diseases like flu or measles are quite rare. The drug discovery process starts when a drug target is identified. Generally, they are proteins which are part of the lock and key mechanisms, but sometimes they could also be DNA or RNA, which are involved in creating these proteins. When the drug target is set, chemists start searching for a molecule that can act as a fake key. The goal is to not let the original key enter the lock and thereby disrupt the target process. Sometimes this can be done with another mechanism called allosteric inhibition. This is not as direct as the broken lock mechanism. Imagine a lock that has more than one keyhole, but only one of the keyholes can be used to unlock it. Instead of directly blocking the functional keyhole, we can make a key for the unused keyhole. When the unused keyhole is bound with the fake key, it changes the shape of the original keyhole or completely blocks it, thereby preventing the original key from entering the lock. Thus, the functional keyhole is indirectly blocked in this manner and the process gets blocked. Molecules that can function as fake keys by either mechanism can be found either by screening natural products such as chemicals from plants or other organisms, or by synthesizing many molecules in the lab and testing all of them. First, many compounds are checked for their ability to bind to the specific drug target to get some hit compounds. Then these compounds are modified in the lab systematically to improve their binding and reduce the off-target activities. The molecules emerging out of this process are called leads. These molecules are then tested in animals such as mice or rats to evaluate how they function inside the body. Sometimes the molecule stays in the body for too long, and other times it gets cleared too quickly. These parameters are then modified to get a good clearance profile. These molecules are then tested on more complex animal systems such as monkeys, pigs, or dogs. If the clearance profile is still not optimal, the molecule is modified again until we get a good clearance profile for majority of the test animals. Once we get a good clearance profile for a molecule, that is, it remains in the body for just the right amount of time, we check for the efficacy of the molecule, which is how effective it is. If the molecule is effective, it is then tested for toxicity. Toxicity is first checked on isolated cell lines and then on animals. If the drug is not toxic and fulfills other technical criteria, it is now ready for human trials. The whole process of finding a molecule ready for human trials from identifying a hit compound can take anywhere between 4 to 6 years. Clinical trials are also a long and complicated process which I have already explained in my earlier videos. The link for the video is in the description below. At least half the molecules fail in the clinical trial stages. Overall, the entire process can take around 12 to 16 years and about $1 to $3 billion. In case there is a time crunch and there is an urgent need to develop a new drug, this is where drug repurposing comes into the picture. Like vaccine repurposing, drug repurposing makes use of drugs that are already in the market and have cleared safety tests but are being used to treat other viral diseases. While some scientists are involved in vaccine development, others are involved in the drug development and have also tried repurposing drugs. I'll be talking about the three most popular ones: hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir, and favipiravir. Hydroxychloroquine is probably the most hyped up drug after the US President Donald Trump advocated for it. It is an old anti-malarial drug which has been used successfully in treating rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. There were some indications that hydroxychloroquine can activate the immune system, but the clinical trial coordinated shortly afterwards claims that it did not have any beneficiary effect on patients with COVID-19. Remdesivir was originally designed against hepatitis C. It is an antiviral drug that can interfere with the viral RNA synthesis process. It has been found to be effective in animal models of MERS and SARS, two close cousins of COVID-19. It has not yet shown any conclusive results against COVID-19, but it remains one of the most promising therapies available. Like remdesivir, favipiravir is also an antiviral drug that targets viral RNA replication. It was approved in Japan for emergency use against influenza. However, it is not FDA approved, nor has it been approved by the UK regulatory agencies. However, in recent times, India, China, and Russia have approved of its use. There are several clinical trials undergoing in Italy, US, and the UK to establish its efficacy.
And that's it for today's video. With this video, I would like to end the series related to Corona, but if there's anything else that I've missed out and you want me to cover it specifically, please let me know in the comments. If you have any new ideas for the upcoming videos, then please leave them in the comments too. With this, I'd like to say goodbye. Stay healthy, stay happy.